Hello and welcome to this afternoon's live session on preparing for university. Today's session will be led by two of our students, Julia and Nathan, but before we start, we just have a couple of housekeeping notes for you to be aware of. Firstly, this event is being recorded live, and there's a live Q&A function to the right of your screen, so do ask any questions you want as we go through the presentation. If you see a question you just like it and we'll make sure it's answered at the end. Now I'll hand you over to Nathan and Julia.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Julia.
And I'm Nathan.
And I will be leading the first half of the presentation and Nathan will take over later. So without further ado, let's get into it. So what are we going to be covering today? So firstly, we're going to be talking about starting somewhere new. Then we're going to move on to meeting new people. Then what to expect in your first few weeks at university. And finally, a few top tips about university life and experiences that we've had. Starting somewhere new. When you're doing some getting started at university, it's really important to do some research. So it's good to look up your new home on the internet in advance. So it's good to research the places that you might be visiting, anything you might want to go see, if there's entertainment venues, things like that. Next, transport. It's really important to also research your transport links, such as train stations, bus stations, if you need to take a bus to university and what bus that is. Alternatively, it's also good to know your walking routes. So if you're planning to walk to university or it's a particularly good day, you know which way to go and you know you won't be late. And finally, familiarise yourself with the campus. So your campus might be made up of many different buildings or just one, but it's really important to know where the key buildings are, such as the library, the atrium, places to eat inside the university if there are any, and any other important venues, such as maybe a sports hall or a sports centre, so that you know your way around a little bit and you know where to find the places you need to be. Nathan, would you like to say a little bit about maybe transport, because I know you didn't move to university, I know you were commuting, so it might be good to give a bit of a perspective on what that was like.
Yep, so I am a student who is living with my parents in Derby, so I'm not living independently, and that's working out well for me financially, and also for me that has implications on travel. So the uni buses are free. So if you're living in accommodation, most likely in your first year, you'll be in halls of residence, which is very much close to one of the many buildings in the Derby site. And the buses, the free uni buses are free. But outside of that, we've got various other buses in Derby and around Derby that operate that you do have to pay for. So I live slightly outside of the town, the town centre. So I have to use one of the normal buses in the town centre. But for different bus companies, there's various student discounts and student cards that you can take advantage of as well. So if you currently live in Derby, or you live nearby to Derby, and you're thinking of commuting, I'd say research all the bus companies that you will be depending on your route, and see if they have any student discounts. I've got a student card that gives me a bit of a discount. So yeah, it's worth looking into that.
Thank you very much, Nathan. So, moving in and meeting new people. Some of you may be moving away and moving into halls or maybe private rented accommodation. So it's important to keep a few of these things in mind. So what to take? The most important thing is bedding. You have to have something to sleep in. Your laptop and tablet for work, clothes, obviously, a doorstop. A doorstop is a really good one actually, because it opens your door up so that you can meet the other people coming in and out of your flat. So it's quite nice because you see them straight away. Kitchen utensils, just put pots, pans and cups. I know with this, especially packing, it can be really easy to take too much. I know I overpacked completely and then I forgot the essentials, such as a baking tray. So it's really, really good to make a list actually of some of the things that you need to take, some of the priorities. Next, expect to meet different people from different backgrounds. So you may be studying with people from different areas of the UK, but you also might be studying and living with people from more international places, such as maybe Spain or America and things like that. So you'll be getting to know a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds. So tips for making new friends. Gaps going up, expecting to meet new people. Everyone, regardless of where they're coming from, maybe Spain or America, like I mentioned, they'll all be in the same boat. So you'll all be moving into probably a new place, a new environment, and you will all be wanting to make friends, getting to know people. So don't be afraid to talk to anyone. They're probably feeling the same, probably quite worried as well about moving in. It's very overwhelming, and I know that it was nice to have someone come up to me and talk to me when I was moving in, because I was quite shy. And finally, help is available for you on the day. So at Derby, we have something called Welcome Heroes, and they are current students and volunteers from the university who help students move into halls. They're super helpful, and they're really nice to chat to as well, because they make you feel a bit more comfortable, and they give you some advice as well about living in halls and things like that. So I know that I really benefited from having a Welcome Hero, because I got to chat to them, and they kind of gave me a taste of what to expect at university from that moment on. So your first few weeks are going to be really busy. You're going to be meeting, like I said, meeting lots of new people. You're going to be familiarizing yourself with your new timetable, because timetables can be very different at university. And you'll also be doing a lot of fun things. So if that's not attending maybe some classes or some icebreakers from your lecturers, or any various events that the university might organise in the future. And next, I'm going to play a short video about our Union of Students, who kind of are in charge of our student union and our society. So that will give you a bit more information about that. Hopefully that gave you a little insight of what our student union is about, and now I'm going to hand over to Nathan for the next half.
Thanks, Julia. And now I'm going to talk about a few other things in regards to your first few weeks and what you can expect. So first thing that you would be learning when you start university is how to manage your own time. So a lot of you already might have just finished sixth form or college or whatever you've done, and now you're going to be finding a lot more independence when you start university. You're going to be much more in control of your schedule, and because there's a huge variety of courses, everyone is going to have very different schedules. So you might be making friends with someone who is doing psychology, and you might be doing illustration, and both of your schedules might be very different. So it's learning to be independent and managing your own schedule. And then the next thing is greater significance on research, referencing, and independent study. So those of you who are watching, you might have heard of something called a dissertation, which is basically like a final essay that you do at the end of your degree. And it's basically meant to be a summation of what you've learned, and it's you honing in on a certain topic and doing an extended piece of writing on that to really showcase your knowledge and expertise in your subject area. And we've got great resources in helping you find out what good research is, and also finding academic sources and articles that are reliable. So as a university student, you would have fairly exclusive access to many academic writings from all over the world, and the library does has a great service both in person whilst you're on campus and digitally, to help you make sure you're referencing your sources correctly and finding great ways to research. Thirdly, as you can see, we've got making good notes in lectures to consider as well. So in your first few weeks, you'll be getting used to the whole lecturing style. And again, this varies from course to course. The way lectures might look for an engineering course might be very different from the lectures that you'd be having for a law course, for example. So it's learning to adapt to the various ways of learning within your course. And whilst you're in lectures, always make notes. A large rate of retention that we have is due to us taking notes. So I'd say just always take notes, whether you're asked to take notes or not. You're gonna really be thankful, especially at the start of your university study, if you're able to gather all the stuff that you're learning into one area. And then the next thing is make the most of experts and the lecturers, the tutors, etc. around you. I think, you know, you're paying a lot of money to go to university, and I think the last thing you'd want to do is not get as much out of it as possible. So it's not just about turning up to lectures, it's not just about passing module after module, it's about trying to achieve the very best you can. And like I said, in terms of independent learning, is not just through taking notes, but through speaking, having conversations with your tutors, emailing them saying, oh, I'm stuck on this, I'm stuck on that. Can we have a one-on-one session, or can you just walk me through this? You know, you're really in charge of your own learning experience. So that's the sort of attitude that I think would be great to get doing as soon as you start your course. So I think that would really take you a long way. And then lastly, we've got getting hold of reading lists. So a reading list is just a list of sources and articles and things that your tutors are recommending to you. And I think at the start of every module, you have a module handbook, and within that handbook, typically there's a reading list at the end for you to look up a whole range of sources and articles to get you started on particular modules and particular assignments. So always make the most of reading lists, and that will really help you in the long run. So I've talked a lot about academic stuff and working hard and doing all of this stuff, but you need time for yourself, you need time to relax, you need time to refresh, and we've got a few tips that we think will help you as well as you start university. So the first thing, if it comes up, is to eat well. Okay, I must emphasize, especially if you're living independently, that's going to be a very eye-opening experience for you. And so you're going to find yourself, oh, that looks nice, or that looks cheap, I'll buy this. Again, managing your time. If you don't create enough time to actually buy healthy food and make time to create healthy meals, then that can result in quite a non-nutritional diet, which won't help you concentrate, it won't help you operate with your busy schedule. So please eat well, and make time for things such as making healthy meals, and buying good ingredients, and saving money for healthy ingredients as well, because it can be tempting when you see the cheapest stuff is the stuff that's not very nutritious. So you'll see already we're starting to see the links between various aspects of independent lifestyle, like the impact your finance would have on your diet, and the way you manage your time will influence your diet as well. So there's loads of intersections there. Julia, do you briefly want to just talk about your experience in terms of managing your diet as someone living independently during university?
Yes, of course. So like you said, I know you said something about, oh, I like that, I'll have that. I know I had trouble, especially in the first week, because I had my own money and I had obviously the freedom to do so. So I tended to maybe get a takeaway or a pizza and stuff like that. And after a while, I noticed that this probably wasn't the best because I started to feel a bit tired and a bit sluggish. So your diet does really affect your lifestyle after all. And like they say, the food is what fuels your body and your brain. So I did have to rethink my food choices, and yeah, it wasn't easy, but yeah, the temptation's there. One or two takeaways a month is good, or maybe one every so often, but don't do what I did and fall into that kind of, oh, I have the freedom, so I'll do it anyway. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And the next thing we've got is exercise. Okay. Now, to exercise, you don't have to be sporty. A lot of students, you'll find as a university student, your schedule might get filled up pretty quickly, and you're like, oh, I'm not really sporty. I can't be bothered, blah, blah, blah. But exercise really helps you stay fit, stay healthy, and getting some fresh air into your system really helps you concentrate better as well. And it's also a great way to relieve stress because let's be real, university can be quite stressful sometimes, especially if you're towards the nearing the end of your course and you've got like your final essays and stuff to do. It does get stressful, and you really want to do exercise to relieve that stress. I've been going to the gym throughout my course, and you know, sometimes you get busy. Again, your schedule changes. You might only be able to go to the gym maybe two or three times a week. That's what I aim for. Sometimes I can only go once a week, but just finding those little pockets of time to exercise, relieve your stress, and going with a friend can be motivating as well, which is what I've done on a few occasions. So I'd highly recommend that. Thirdly, sleep. This might be probably the most important thing on this list because I feel like a lot of my colleagues and friends at uni, they don't get enough sleep. You know, again, you're independent, especially if you're living by yourself. It might be the first time in your life where there's no one nagging you at home that you're coming home too late or whatever. So, you know, going partying, doing stuff like that, going to all sorts of events with your friends is awesome. But then you want to make sure on a daily basis you are having enough sleep so that you can concentrate throughout your studies and just get the most out of the day. So I'd say, you know, and especially towards the end of your course when you're doing important assignments, you might find yourself doing all-nighters. Try not to do that. I try to do all my work during the day and still have about 8 hours of sleep, which is the recommended amount of time for most adults. So I'd say try and get about 8 hours sleep, timetable that in, and so throughout the day, you're allowing less time for procrastination as well. And then practical skills. So in practical skills, what we mean by that is pretty much transferable skills and skills outside of your course. So there's all sorts of societies, like we've seen in the video that we played earlier, that you can join. So that's one way to develop various skills. We have so many different societies. There's an animation society, there's a Christian society, there's a online gaming society, and all sorts. And if you wanted to set up your own, you can do that as well. So those are great ways to learn different skills. We've also got the Careers and Employment Agency, which is an excellent opportunity. I think all students, especially in the University of Derby, should make use of that because through that you're learning like just everyday work skills that you need for the workplace, such as good communication skills, working to timelines, working to deadlines, how to conduct yourself in an interview. All those practical skills needed for the working world are developed through various schemes and opportunities that the Careers and Employment Agency offers. So definitely make the most of all the extracurricular stuff. Again, other everyday things like how to cook a meal, which is what we've touched on already, how to change a light bulb, how to use the washing machine. These are all everyday skills that you need to make sure you're doing well, and that can help you live a responsible life and have an organized life to help you have a better educational life. So everything affects each other. So everything needs to be balanced. Okay, next slide. We've got income and outcome. So money is something that maybe a lot of you might feel daunted about. You might be thinking, wow, I know university is very expensive, or living independently is very expensive. How can I manage it financially? And we're going to just briefly go through those things in this slide. So income, what income will you be getting in as a student? Good thing is, a lot of you might know already, there are loans that are available. First of all, for every student, regardless of where you live, there is a tuition fee loan. So there are tuition fees that need to be paid. And on top of that, especially if you're living independently, you can have a maintenance loan, which will help cover the costs of your just your accommodation, basically. The good thing about the University of Derby and our halls of residence, which most of you will be living in your first year, is that the accommodation costs cover your bills and everything, so you don't have to worry about any hidden costs. It's all in just one weekly and monthly cost. So your maintenance loan covers that, and then bursaries and scholarships are available as well. It's particularly for those of you who are international students. There's a few bursaries and scholarships made available. So I'd say definitely research that on the university website. And yeah, just if you have any questions about bursaries and scholarships, there are contact details on the website. And also me and Julia are Uni Buddy ambassadors. So we do have a Uni Buddies page for the university. So we will just answer questions about our personal experience. But if you did still have inquiries about bursaries and scholarships, which is not our speciality, we could still pass you on to the inquiries team, and they can get in contact with you as well. Part-time jobs are also available. I did mention the Careers and Employment Agency. They offer something called Driven Internships, which is a paid temporary internship scheme. So it's like an 80-hour contract, and there's a few jobs made available by local employers in Derby. A lot of them might be just starting their company, and they're looking for interns to actually help get their company running, or they might have existed for a few years already, and they just want a student to help their company get to the next level. So that's the great thing about the Driven Internship Scheme, is that the jobs offered are strictly just for University of Derby students. So whilst you're studying, if you're looking for part-time jobs, you've got that to take advantage of. And obviously, there's loads of other jobs as well. The Union of Students has a few part-time jobs that it offers. If you wanted to work in their shop in Kedleston, and on the Kedleston site, or any of the other sites, there's those as well. And then even outside of the university, there's obviously loads of shops and loads of companies in Derby that you can apply for regarding part-time jobs. I thoroughly recommend getting a part-time job whilst you're studying. It adds to your independent experience and you developing yourself, and also you're learning vital work sort of skills, such as, again, working with those who are not your friends, and communication within a professional context. So all these everyday skills are being enhanced in conjunction with what you're learning in your degree, so that when you do graduate, you already have some professional experience in your belt, which employers are really looking forward to. A degree does great. It can get you far, especially in certain fields such as working in biology or chemistry, or anything like that. But generally, the more experience you have in addition to your degree, the better. So part-time jobs are highly recommended. Parents and carers, again, if you're living independently, most of you might find you're able to get some financial support from your parents. They might be able to agree to send you a certain amount of money every month or so. For some of us, it might not be that straightforward. So we do have to bear in mind that not everyone might have the parents or carers to help them financially. So it's worth taking into account those other sort of difficulties you might be dealing with. And the university does provide help and counselling to help with those who are struggling financially. Outgoings, so this is quite a lot. It might seem quite daunting to you before you start university, but once you get into the rhythm of things, you'll see that actually these costs can be managed without you ripping your hair out. And accommodation is number one. As I said, halls of residence for the university covers everything. And then we've got food as well. You might find yourself spending quite a lot of money on food because you'll be getting quite hungry with all the work you're doing. So make sure you set a good amount of money aside for food, and good quality food as well, because you want that good quality diet. Utilities. So this is slightly separate from accommodation, where you're not just paying for the actual accommodation, but you're paying for the gas, electricity, and various other things. So this will be more of a thing that you have to worry about when you're in private accommodation, which most students get into in their second year or third year. And yeah, so setting aside money for utilities is important. Textbooks, stationery, etc. Definitely set aside a budget for that. I think your education is worth investing in. You're already investing in it through your tuition fee loan, but extra investment through resources, books that your lecturers recommend that might be in your reading list for your course, is definitely worth spending money on those. But to help you with the cost of those things, the University of Derby does offer a £100 voucher for every academic year for the Blackwell's bookstore. So the Blackwell's bookstore, they have like a small equivalent of their store within the Kedleston site, which is the main site of the university. So when you walk in on the ground level, you see Blackwell's, and you'll have an app, a university app, through which you can use your voucher to buy any of the things in their store, which doesn't just include academic stuff. It includes novels. If you want to buy a gift for your little sister or your cousin, there's some gifts in there. There's some little electronics as well. So yeah, I'd say that's a great thing about the University of Derby, and one of the various things they offer to help cover the cost of textbooks and things like that. Travel and transport, we've mentioned that already. Depending on how much you're traveling, especially if you're commuting, definitely do your research on rail card deals, and look at the bus companies that you'll need for your route. So for example, I depend on the Trent Barton buses, and they have something called the Mango card, which is, I guess, equivalent to an Oyster in for the Transport for London. And then the Mango card, they have a student version of the Mango card. So that's what I had to research online and get a hold of for myself. So all these rail cards and things like that, make sure you do your research and get those cards as early as possible, so that you save as much transport and travel money as possible as well. And social life, you know, set aside some money for your social life, for going out to the pub with your mates if that's something you want to do, or going to the cinema. I think it's good to set aside money for that as well, because it can be a way of rewarding yourself after like a hard, like a long term of hard work. You want to set aside some budget to reward yourself and do things with your mates. Okay, and then we go to the next slide. Help is at hand. So we've talked a lot about money. Money can be difficult for a lot of people. So we've got the financial advice team who give money and advice, that all falls under the student well-being. We've got the career development center. So the Careers and Employment Agency are probably in charge of that, and they can arrange appointments with you if you are feeling a little bit daunted, or if you feel a bit overwhelmed about conducting yourself in an interview, or you have difficulties in constructing your CV. You've got impartial advice there. We've got the Student Wellbeing Centre, which is based in the Kedleston site, but again, their contact details are easily accessible through the University of Derby app and through various other links on our website as well. So the Student Wellbeing Centre, they help with obviously your well-being, making sure you're okay mentally. You can arrange appointments with them if you are having a mental breakdown or you have a bereavement whilst you're doing your coursework. You can arrange with them so that you have an extended deadline. So they help with various things like that. And also another unique thing about the University of Derby in particular is we have a GP surgery based in the Student Wellbeing Centre as well. So especially if you're living far away from home and you want to transfer your GP records to where you're living, then there's a local GP in there. The GP is external to the university, so you can rest assured that you are having impartial and confidential help as well. That is outside of the university. But yeah, so that's that to take advantage of. If you have disabilities, dyslexia, etc., etc., there's loads of digital resources that the university offers. We have our digital learning platform called Blackboard, and that has something called Blackboard Ally, which has lots of accessibility features. So if you're blind or dyslexic or visually impaired or anything like that, there's digital tools and various file formats that you can download your course resources in. So there's that as well. And there's a whole other load of things that is on this PowerPoint that I don't have enough time to fully go through, but that's just the tip of the iceberg in what the university can offer. I've mentioned the library already. There's something called Library Plus, which is a digital tool made available for students where you can search up articles and guides on how to reference your sources and compile your research together, all sorts of stuff available there. If we go to the next slide, and I'll have Julia join with me on this slide as well, just to talk about some of the things that we wish we did a little bit more of during our time at university, or things that we think students should just make the most of more often. So I'll start off by mentioning one or two things. And one thing that stands out to me on this thing is don't be afraid to talk to new people. Now, the University of Derby, in my experience, is very big. And for some people, that might be an incredible thing. For other people, it might be like, oh my days, I can't handle this, you know. And it's okay, even if you're an introvert, there's various societies, various ways that you can mingle with other students like you. So like we've mentioned already, we've got the Freshers' Fair that happens in the first few weeks. And that is quite a hectic week. You might think, oh my days, there's so many things to go to. And what I'd suggest for that is step outside your comfort zone. You know, if you're not usually the sort of person who likes to go to loads of different events, try and challenge yourself, because you might find yourself meeting people outside of your course who are very similar to you still in many ways. So it's worth stepping outside your site. You know, so for example, I'm an art student. I spend most of my time based at the Markeaton site, but I'd say try and not always go to the Markeaton site. Try and go to the Kedleston site. Try and go to Britannia Mill. Try and go to various other sites where various other sort of freshers events might be happening. And through that, you might be able to meet students from outside your course, outside your areas of interest. But you might find other areas that you have in common with people. For example, I've met loads of new friends through the Christian Union. I've met loads of new friends through the Afro-Caribbean Society as well. And that's a great way to be international students, those from other cultures. And that way you can learn a lot more about the world and a lot more about just people in general, you know. So definitely enhance your social life by going to loads of different things that the university is offering, through which you can learn about various other cultures, various walks of life, various religious beliefs as well. And that can, yeah, really add to your learning experience. What is there one thing that jumps out to you, Julia, when you look at the PowerPoint? One thing that you think students should really make the most of whilst being at university?
I think it's definitely, I think you mentioned this earlier about taking opportunities such as internships and things like that. It's a really great way to expand your horizons, to expand your skills, and it will look great on your CV and for future employers, because then you have all the extra skills maybe that you didn't have before, such as enhanced IT skills or data analyzing or other things like that. So yeah, definitely make the most of the opportunities that come your way.
Yeah, thank you for that. And what I would also add as well is one thing that a lot of you might be thinking is university really for me? It seems like it's very academic. It seems like, I don't know, I'm kind of fed up with education. I just want to move on and, you know, get into the working world. But one thing that surprises many people is that a degree isn't really that hard. And what that means is in today's climate, there's a huge range of courses that you can do. So courses such as cybersecurity in some universities, but not Derby, but in other universities, there's courses such as memology, where you can even study memes and what they mean and the history behind them. So there are hundreds of thousands of courses, different courses offered in the UK. And I'd say university is for everyone. So if you are a very practical person who doesn't like a lot of exams or coursework or written work, there are tons of courses for you. There's quite a few engineering courses that the University of Derby has that isn't too dependent on exams or anything academic. My course, animation, which I've just finished, has no exams at all. So there's quite a few courses that have no exams, a lot of coursework, a lot of independent learning, a lot of practical stuff. So university is very practical. It's not just for academic people who love books and lecture halls. We've also got great facilities in the University of Derby for lots of practical things. We've got great studios for music courses. We've got great equipment for film. We've got great sites and it's just resources for law students. We've got like kind of a make-believe sort of courtroom as well to practice your law skills in. We've got criminology stuff as well, where we've got like crime scene equipment. We've got for like medical courses. We've got dummies and sort of you know, there's various spaces and resources to really get you into the professional mindset of your course, you know, so you really feel like you're already in the industry. So yeah, I'd say definitely open up your mind to what you can get from degrees. They might be so much more practical and engaging than most people might think. So that's another thing I'd say.
Great, Nathan. I'm just going to stop you there because I'm aware we've got about 10 minutes left.
Sorry.
We've got loads and loads of questions coming through. So
No
thank
problem.
you to everyone who've submitted questions. We probably won't be able to get through all of them. So you can email us at opendays@derby.ac.uk if we can't get through your questions. And you can also chat to Nathan and Julia directly through their UniBuddy pages. So all you need to do is go to derby.ac.uk/UniBuddy. Right, so we'll just go through some of the most popular questions. The first one is from Ellie, and she says, does your timetable stay the same all year round?
Okay, Julia, do you want to answer that question just to mix it up a little?
Yeah, I can do. So it kind of, so we have 2 semesters in a year. So we have an autumn semester and then all of the like spring summer semester. So your timetable can vary. So for me, it changed from the spring semester on which days I was in. So for example, in the autumn semester, I was in Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then in the autumn semester, it changed to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So it is just slight changes that can happen. But if there are any problems, you can always contact your course leader and something like that, so they can accommodate if you can't make that session or something like that.
Thanks.
Great. Okay, so the next one is, was there anything that surprised you when you started or anything you wish you knew beforehand?
Okay, I think I'll answer that one.
Yeah.
So what I'd say is, I mean, we already touched on some of these in the presentation. One thing I wish I knew more was just the extracurricular opportunities that are available. So my personal experience, I actually used to live in Essex with my family, and I actually started my degree at a different university. So I did my foundation in my first year of animation at that university. It was Ravensbourne, actually, Ravensbourne University. And yeah, I think because I was there for my foundation year, I think I was just so conditioned to be like, I'm only here to get my coursework done and go. And I think one thing that added to that was the fact that I had to commute. So that's one thing you might want to consider, is that if you're thinking of commuting to university, you might find it hard, and because it might be such a long journey or it might cost money, you might be thinking, oh, I don't want to go to university too often because I want to save my travel time. But then that might discourage you from getting involved in lots of the extracurricular things, such as going to various conferences or events or societies. So for me, it was like, because I was commuting, I was always focusing on just doing my coursework and my lectures. But as I moved to Derby, and I actually, because I'm staying with my family and Derby is quite a small area, it's very easy for me to, it's a much shorter journey to get to where I need to get to regarding university events. So I'd say all that to say, just try and make it as easy as possible for you to get involved with university, and don't just go for your lectures. There's societies that you can be part of, part-time jobs that you can do for your university, loads and loads of extra things. Get the most out of the £9+ grand a year that you're paying.
Thank you for that, Nathan. This next question's kind of a similar question, but it's just about the buses. So are the uni buses busy, and can you always get on them?
Okay, I'll let Julia answer this one, if that's okay.
Yeah, so it kind of depends on the time of day and which bus you're taking. So the number 6 bus is kind of the bus that is the main route, which covers most of the accommodations and the city centre, which can get quite busy during like peak times. So I've noticed it get busy around like 1 p.m. and then again at 5 p.m. So yeah, it can get busy, but they do run quite often. So if you miss one, then you can just get on the next one, or if another bus can take you where you need to be, you can get on one of the other buses that are running. I feel like the least busy bus was the number 7, which is kind of has a bit of a shorter route and kind of covers one of the other accommodations. But yeah, sometimes it does get quite busy, obviously, because it is a free bus route, but there will always be another one soon. So yeah.
Yeah.
Great, thank you, Julia. And how late do these buses run?
So Julia, I think, have you had any late bus before? Because you're living independently, I'm thinking maybe you would be more dependent on the uni buses than I am. So have you ever had to use the late buses before?
Yeah, you're right, Nathan. Yeah, I did. So sometimes I'd spend a bit longer in the library. I think the latest bus was I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think it was 9 o'clock. And I know when the longer library hours were introduced, there was a night bus, which was a minibus that kind of took you around the main route, which covered the accommodations, so that you could get home safely if you were staying in the library later than 9 o'clock. And that was during the 24-hour library kind of time. So yeah, I think the latest and last bus is at 9 o'clock. I think that's the number 6. I believe the number 7 is a bit shorter. I think that last one was around 5 o'clock.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. You just mentioned that you kind of study in the library, and someone's asked, is it difficult to get work done in halls, and is it loud at night?
Well, if it's the weekend, it can get quite loud, and especially during the first week, but I never had a problem with doing work in my room, because when I was in my room door shut, I didn't really get that much of the noise. The door kind of managed to fade away the noise that was there, but sometimes it can get noisy, and that's something to be prepared for, but it's not all the time. And if it is getting really loud to the point where it is hindering your studying, then you can just contact the halls manager and they will get in contact with the flat that's making the noise and let them know that they need to keep it down a little bit.
That's great, thank you. And what are your thoughts on the accommodation and the different types of accommodation available as well? Chloe just wants to know where you stayed, if you did stay in halls.
Yep, so that's another question for me. Sorry, Nathan. Yeah, so there are loads of different types of halls, depending on what you kind of like. So we have ensuite halls, which are kind of like, there's one in town, which is Cathedral, and then we have the non-ensuites. I chose to stay in one of the non-ensuites, so I had a shared bathroom. I stayed in Nunnery Court. I really enjoyed my time at Nunnery Court, honestly. I liked the rooms. They were quite new, so had quite new furniture. It was quite modern. It was nice. The beds were comfortable as well, because I know that can be an issue sometimes. I think the best advice I can give regarding accommodations, again, do your research. So have a look at the rooms online, maybe look at the photos, and yeah, kind of see what you would like out of the accommodation. So if you do prefer to have your own bathrooms, we have accommodations such as Cathedral Court and things like that do cater for that.
Great, thank you, Julia. We've also had a few questions through about sports clubs as well and societies. Someone asks, are they in the daytime or are they in the evenings? And also, are there any social clubs instead of them being purely competitive?
So I think I'll answer that one. So yeah, as I said, I've loosely been involved with the Animation Society. So I think it's hard for me to speak for all or even most societies, but just from the few societies that I've engaged with, a lot of the time it's in the evening, which works best for a lot of students, because throughout the day, either they're going to work or they're doing their lectures or they're doing the coursework or exercising or whatnot. So the evening is normally how it is, maybe about 7:30 p.m. ish or slightly earlier. Again, it depends on how large the society is and the individual needs of the people within a society. Societies can be as large or as small as you want them to be. So that's one thing I like. And also regarding competitiveness and things like that, there's loads. I don't know a lot, me personally, about the sports societies. I know that a lot of them give opportunities to compete and represent the university, but a lot of them, such as more niche ones like Quidditch, I think I'm saying it correctly. I have a friend who just got involved in that, and she wasn't really in it for the competitions. It was more just a social experience. So for some sort of smaller sports societies, there's less of a competitive culture, and it's just really a bonding experience. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about that.
Yeah.
That's great, thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry, Julia, go on.
No, I just wanted to quickly add that, yeah, I was part of a sports society, I was part of Pole Fitness, and it wasn't all competing and things like that. You could go and have fun, and I know other people in sports societies who just went for fun, not just for the competition. So you don't have to compete if you don't want to. You can volunteer to compete in some of the sports. But yeah, you don't always have to compete. You can just play for fun.
That's perfect. Thank you, Julia. I think that's all we have time for in terms of questions today. I know we haven't got through half of them, so thank you to everyone who submitted questions. What I would say is that get in touch with Nathan and Julia if you'd like on Unibuddy. So again, it's derby.ac.uk/Unibuddy. And for more general queries as well, feel free to drop us an email at opendays@derby.ac.uk. Thank you very much for attending today. We hope you enjoyed the session.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Goodbye.